Hi, Avril here from Access Credit Union. We are delighted to once again sponsor the Star Sports podcast. As part of our range of new business loans, we now offer Cultivate Farm Finance, the farmer-friendly loan package. With a Cultivate loan, farmers in West Cork can benefit from the local decision-making and personal service offered by Access Credit Union. To find out more, go to accesscu.ie/cultivate, call me on 085 268 2727 or 028 21883, where a member of our team will be happy to help you with your inquiry.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. Before we kick things off, I'd just like to give a gentle reminder to our listeners and viewers to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose the credit union, choose local, choose community. On this week's show, we'll be joined by Ireland's new national 5,000 metre champion, Glengarriff's Darragh McElhinney. Darragh was the star of the show at the 150th National Track and Field Championships in Santry at the weekend as he stormed to victory in a time of 13:53.84. Later on the show, we're chatting to Carbery's divisional football manager Tim Buckley ahead of their big West Cork derby against Beara on Thursday evening. But Kieran, before we chat to Darragh and Tim, we're going to look back on Cork's defeat against Dublin in the All-Ireland quarter-final last Saturday. John Cleary's side were well beaten in Croke Park on a scoreline of 21 points to 10 to put an end to their involvement in this year's championship. Kieran, there is no shock, and despite decent periods in the first half when both Brian Hurley and Stephen Sherlock looked dangerous, this was as routine a victory as it gets for the Dubs.
Yeah, I think it almost went as most people expected it to. The Cork did put up a good fight in fairness for, well, especially the first half, but in the second half, it was very similar to the game against Kerry in the Munster semi-final. Just Cork came up short. They just faded out of the game. Dublin took over and they just cantered to victory. Like it was very routine, very easy for Dublin in the second half. But that's the reality of where this Cork football team is right now. And John Cleary was saying it afterwards. I was reading some of his quotes here. He said, scorelines don't lie. At the moment where we are is a mid to lower Division 2 team, and that's what the results have shown. And I think that's exactly it. Like we can't forget that this Cork team just avoided relegation down to Division 3. They finished 6th in Division 2. So that's really where this Cork team is right now. They're a mid-table Division 2 team. But the beauty of this championship run is that they've got 4 games in. Lost to Kerry, then regrouped, beat Louth, beat Limerick, and then lost to Dublin. But it's no surprise the 2 defeats came against Kerry and Dublin because they'll be two top-tier teams, 2 teams who'll meet now in the semi-final the weekend after this, and 2 teams that are, I suppose, they're obviously in the conversation for the All-Ireland, but Cork are a long way off that. And I think we all know that, and I think everyone's seen that now because we've seen how Cork have fared against Dublin and Kerry, and there's a big distance to go. But at least Cork now, they have something to measure it against. You know, kind of, they know they can beat teams around them like the Louths and Limericks, but if they want to get to the next level and the level after that, and the level then to reach the Kerrys and the Derrys, you could even say now, and the Dublins and so on, like there's a long journey ahead. But the journey has started already. That's the thing. Kind of there's blocks been put in place this year that Cork can build on for next year, and I think it is going to be a process. I know people are saying, look at what Derry have done, and can Cork kind of just copy that? It's just not that easy. If it was, other counties could do it. I think Cork have to be patient in this journey. But I don't know, it's kind of saying it after an 11-point loss to Dublin, but it was a good championship campaign for Cork, considering what could have been. It could have been the Tailteann Cup. At least they got into the Sam Maguire battle. They did 4 games. They learned from it, and hopefully the team big winter coming up, big winter of conditioning for fellas to kind of just to stay with it. But a good first step, but a hell of a lot of work to do.
You mentioned they had 4 good championship games, so Louth and Limerick, they were expected to win one of those, or win both of those, and Kerry and Dublin, to be fair, they were expected to lose both of those games. But how do you think Cork would have fared in their current form against a team that was maybe closer to them? Like, I'm not necessarily saying Cork are as good as Armagh, Galway or Derry, but theoretically they're closer to those 3 teams than they are to the likes of Dublin and Kerry. How would Cork have done had the draw been differently, had it been Cork against Galway or Armagh in Croke Park on Sunday?
That's very much ifs and buts, but I would think that I couldn't see Cork beating a Galway or Derry or a team like that just yet, or even Armagh. You look at how those teams have improved. Go back to Division 2 of the Football League. Cork were in with Galway and Derry, and it's no surprise they're the 2 teams that were top of the table, and they're 2 teams who've got on to the bigger and better teams since then. Cork just aren't at those teams' levels yet. And I'm even thinking back to Keith Ricken earlier in the year, and it was just a saying he said after the McGrath Cup final when Cork lost to Kerry. He said, good timber takes time to grow. And that's really, like, he was kind of hinting that this Cork team just needs time, because conditioning is a huge thing right now at intercounty level, whether that's football or hurling. And a lot of these Cork lads, they just need time to, I suppose, bigger, faster, stronger, fitter, to kind of to live with the Dublins and the Kerrys and even the Derrys and the Galways, because those teams are a lot further along their processes and their development than this Cork team are right now. We got to look at the likes of even Rory Mcguire from Castlehaven, who's had a really solid first season at senior intercounty, but he almost came from nowhere to win his place in that Cork half-back line. But if he give him another year or 2, the likes of John Cooper, Éire Oak, fellas like that, they should theoretically improve and get better. So that's why this year is an important year for Cork. But like I said, there's a big winter there, because if you look at the last couple of years, the turnover of players that Cork have had, it's hard to wrap your head around it. I was looking at before the Dublin game last weekend when Cork played Dublin in the Super 8s back in 2019, and that's only 3 years ago. But only 3 players started last Saturday night that started that game 3 years ago. I think it was Brian Hurley, Matty Taylor, and could have been Ian Maguire. I could be corrected on that, but that's a huge turnover. Like in a couple of years, okay, the likes of John O'Rourke and Sherlock and them, they were subs back in 2019, but still, like to lose so many first team players in such a short space of time, it just shows the rebuilding job that Cork have. But that's why this year they've had their 7 league games, they've had 4 championship games. That's 11 games that they've played. So you'd hope that there's a base there to build on next year. But Cork need to kind of, I think too, Jack, they need to almost see what's happening for 2023. Like John Cleary is obviously the standing boss for the last 2 games in the league and the 4 championship games, because Keith Ricken took ill and he just stepped aside. But I think kind of clarity on what's going to happen for next year. And I know the championship is just over for Cork, but the company championships are starting soon. So I think even to see, like, hopefully we'll get Keith Ricken back on board, or will it be John Cleary staying on? But even decisions like that, kind of, I think almost the sooner they're made and there's clarity for the players and the management team for next year, and let the management team go out and watch the county championships starting into July, and see if we unearth another 4 or 5 players for the panel next year. So it's kind of, I'd be more optimistic now looking into next year into Division 2, that Cork won't be involved in a struggle, that they'll be more mid-table and looking upwards. But still, like, we've seen the gap to Dublin and to Kerry, and this is a Dublin and Kerry team that didn't need to go full tilt against Cork, and I think that should be kind of brought into the equation too, that Dublin were cantering through that second half. So there's a long way to go, but at least the ship is pointing forward, which is better than it has been in years gone by.
I think it should probably be mentioned as well, considering the uncertainty around the management situation. You'd have to say it was a very positive performance overall by John Cleary to step in when he did and to deliver what ultimately was a positive season for the Cork footballer. So whatever happens there, I think Cork footballer is going to be in safe hands, whether it be the return of Keith Ricken or if John Cleary is to continue. I think he's done himself no harm in that regard. Just on the game itself then, Kieran, briefly before we move on, because we're going to do a full season debrief in the coming weeks, but 3 players that we've spoken about a lot on this podcast in the build-up to all the championship games is the Cork full forward line: Brian Hurley, Stephen Sherlock and Cathal O'Mahony. And we said regularly that we believed this full forward line was good enough to do damage against any side in the country. And for periods in that first half, it looked like they were doing just that. They looked every bit the Dublin equal. Just to give the points totals here, Cathal O'Mahony scored 3, 2 from free. Stephen Sherlock got 3, 1 from a mark, 1 from a free, and Brian Hurley scored 2 brilliant points from play. In the second half then, as you mentioned, the Dublin cantered to victory. Any insight from yourself as to what happened there? Did the Dublin machine just get on top of the Cork's danger men? Did they figure out how to deal with them? Because it did look at times that not necessarily Cork had the beating of them, but those 3 players had the beating of their Dublin counterparts.
Like O'Mahony, Sherlock and Hurley definitely caused them problems in the first half. And like Cork went 3 points down at half time, they were well in that game. But it's so similar to that Munster semi-final against Kerry, that second half fade out. It's just, I think it comes down to almost conditioning and experience and so on. That just it's just not a coincidence that Cork faded at almost the same point in the Kerry game and the Dublin game, because those teams are just so further along in terms of their development, in terms of their physique and their conditioning. Like, they're just bigger, fitter, faster, stronger men, because they've been in this process for so many more years. Like those players, like those Dublin players, like how many Ireland sit there under their belt, like, and they're so experienced too. They just know how to win games, and they know how to win games in second gear. They know how to win games playing badly, and just Cork just don't have that right now. But just back to the 3 lads in that full forward line, so dangerous. But I was thinking back to what John Hayes, the former Cork footballer and selector, said in his podcast a couple of weeks ago, that he'd like to see them link up more and link up better. And I think we saw that too the last day, that they need to link up better as well. You saw it in the Dublin attack. That it just flows. It just flows because they just link up so well, and the scores come so easily to them. But that's again because they've been playing together for I don't know how many years. And this Cork full forward line, it's their first season kind of trying to gel, and it doesn't happen overnight. So again, it's something to build on. It's something positive for next year, that Cork have 3 forwards that can hold their own with most counties in the country. So I think that's a positive, and that's why I was saying earlier that this winter's a big one, because you'd hope that some of these Cork fellas will come back even fitter, stronger kind of next year. I'm thinking the likes of like Colm O'Callaghan is turning into a fine player, and he's a big size of a fella too, and he's been there now a couple of years, and you can see him kind of having a big role to play in the years ahead, and he's a fella who can hold his own as well. So there's all these kind of positive signs, but we just can't get too carried away either, because at the end of the day, we just know where Cork are, kind of a good bit off the top. Did well to get to the last 8 in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship, but that's their ceiling right now, and a good bit has to change for Cork even to get to a semi-final next year and so on. They did very well to get to quarter-final this year. That is progress. When you look back to where they were 5 games into the league, no win, stay in relegation, so they've done well to almost salvage the season, turn it around, and almost finished it on a bit of a positive. Despite the loss, it is a positive finish to the season for Cork, because I want to go back to another guest we had on a couple of weeks ago, Paddy Kelly, and he said if Cork are to go out in this year's championship, they need to go to a team that's better than them, and that's exactly what they did. They beat Louth and they beat Limerick, but they lost to a Dublin team that is better than Cork. So they bowed out like that, but there is reasons to be optimistic, but we won't be getting carried away either. There's a lot of work ahead, and it is a long road.
Yeah, definitely important not to get too ahead of ourselves, because they did also kick 7 wasteful wides in that first half as well, so plenty to work on. But as I said, we'll come back and do a full season review maybe next week or the week after, and plenty to look back on as well. But we're going to switch our attention now to athletics and the 150th National Track and Field Championships that took place in Santry at the weekend. And one of our favourite guests on this podcast is Glengarriff's Darragh McElhinney, and he stormed to victory in the 5,000 metre final. There's a great report from the day on the RTE website where he's described as a thoroughbred. So Darragh shone on the big day again. He loves the big occasion, Kieran.
100%. And he was so calm, composed in that 5,000 meter men's final on Sunday. Anyone listening to this podcast, if they haven't watched it, I think just if you go on there, you'll find it on Twitter, YouTube. Just watch Darragh on that last lap, because he was in against Ephraim Giddy and Hiki Tenoso, two high caliber middle distance runners here in Ireland. But Darragh is only 21, like he's still so young. And I know we keep saying that in this podcast, but he's just 21. He just looked right at home, and he picked his right moment to kick for home, and he was coming down the straight there, and he just never looked in trouble. It was almost effortless by him, but it just shows that he's at that level now. He's going to go on to be one of the top middle distance runners that Ireland have had in a long time, and he could almost be the best middle distance Irish runner of his generation if he keeps going on in this trajectory. Because just look at what he's achieved in the last couple of years. He won the senior indoor title at the senior championships back in February. Now he's a senior outdoor title. This is his second time winning the senior men's 5,000 meter gold. He won a 2 back in 2020. It could have been a hat trick of wins from this year, but last year he hopped down to the 1,500 meters and he finished fourth. But I think he's taken to himself, why didn't I stay at the 5,000 meters and put back to back gold medals together, because he's only going to get better. He's only going to get better. And he's the European Championships in Munich in August to look forward to as well. And it's all gearing up towards that. So he's just a class act. And but he wasn't the only West Cork athlete, Jack, in action as well at the national championships. And before we hear from Darragh, just to give a quick synopsis, that Phil Healy relinquished her 400 meter women's title, and she lost to Sophie Becker by just 0.14 of a second. Like, it was a brilliant finish, one of the races of the weekend. So that's a tough one for Phil to take, but she'll bounce back from that. I know she's in a heavy block of training right now ahead of the Europeans in August, so there's bigger and better things to come from Phil this season. Her older sister Joan finished third in the women's 100 meter final, and this was a brilliant race. Rashida Adeleke and Molly Scott, 0.01, that's 100 of a second separated them in a brilliant finish. And Joan went with them, and she finished in third to home bronze. And I was chatting to her on Monday, and she was saying that's as good as a gold for her, considering what Rashida and Molly were doing in the indoor season. And just to mention too, for the likes of Shane Howard from Bandon Athletic Club, he was silver in the long jump, and Roisin McSweeney, Bandon Athletic Club, she won a silver medal too. So we have a full report in Thursday's Southern Star about the local athletes at the Irish Athletics Championships. But we had to chat to Darragh McElhinney this week off the back of his latest gold medal winning triumph. And as you'll understand, he was in top form, Jack. Much like his opponents in races, I'm having trouble keeping up with Darragh McElhinney's achievements in recent times. And just on Sunday gone, he added the Irish men's 5,000 meter title to his growing list of accolades. So welcome back to the podcast, Darragh, and congratulations on your latest success.
Yeah, thanks very much, Kieran. Thanks for having me on again.
Let's chat about the race. So I was saying, like, the men's 5,000 meter final at the Irish National Track and Field Championships in Dublin on Sunday. There was yourself, Hiko Tenoso, and Ephraim Giddy, the three big names at Irish middle distance running. You broke away from the chasing pack, and it was building up for a very exciting finish. And you made your move inside the last lap, and it paid off. You went for home and you got gold. So I'm obviously presuming you were happy with the way the race panned out. But was that how you envisaged this race planning out from the start?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think firstly, like, I kind of knew that, especially Ephraim is kind of more suited to front running. And I was watching the stream on the Saturday, the day before, and like, it was clear that like the conditions were going to be fairly blustery and probably not really suitable for front running or a kind of fast race or whatever. So I suppose then that kind of threw the cat amongst pigeons and small, but I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And then even the first lap, we went out and it was pretty slow and nobody went in front. Like, Ephraim didn't make a move early on. So then I was kind of thinking, is it just going to be a very slow race the whole way? But then I suppose it was probably only about a lap in. Ephraim went to the front, and then I followed suit, and Hiko followed me. And I think probably the part that kind of played into my hands, I guess, the most was that I ended up feeling very comfortable the whole way. And like, it was only when I watched it back, I noticed that there actually was an increase in pace towards the last mile or so, whereas I kind of felt in the race that we were keeping the same tempo up really until the last lap. So I think as a result, like I kind of got to the bell feeling very much in control and kind of ready to strike. Whereas I think like we had picked it up to a couple of kind of 66-second laps, which is like say 13:45 5k pace. So like it had picked up, but I think at this stage I was so focused on trying to just stay where I was and pick the right moment to pounce, that I kind of wasn't even aware of the fact that it got quicker. So for me then I was just trying to stay as patient as I could. And I got into the last lap, and as I mentioned, like there was quite a strong wind and it was blowing down the back straight. So I was kind of sitting on the outside shoulder of Ephraim, and I almost kind of felt the wind push me along down the back straight, and I just said, that's as good a sign as any now to just have a crack off it. And the way it worked out as well was Higo was kind of blocked in on my inside. We were kind of had a bit of a triangle, and Higo was kind of on the inside, directly behind Ephraim, and then I was kind of slightly behind Ephraim, slightly ahead of Higo on the outside. And I think I think as I mentioned, like Ephraim he's a very good front runner, but I think if it came down to a kick, I kind of thought Higo would be the bigger threat. So I think I kind of noticed at that stage as well, like obviously I mentioned that the wind was on my back and I felt good, but also I kind of noticed that Higo was a small bit boxed in. I said if I make a move now and I go around Ephraim, Higo's going to have to come out around and then try and chase me, and I think I just wanted to get a yard on him. So then I went with about probably 270, 280 to go, and just wanted to kick hard enough that it made a difference to the race, but also have enough kind of in the reserve to kick again a couple of times. So I kicked then again going around the bend where I think I kind of put a few meters into him. And then with 100 meters to go, I was ready for a kind of titanic battle down the home straight because I thought he was going to be right in my shoulder. But I kind of heard his footsteps were a yard or two behind, so I kicked again pretty hard. And that next kind of 20 or 30 meters, I was all out. But then I kind of sensed that I had it won, so I turned around and I had a glance, and then I seen that the gap was kind of growing. So then I was kind of able to enjoy the last. I suppose I was able to enjoy the last 50 or 60 meters, which isn't always the case in these races. So I kind of just took advantage of that, and then kind of stepped off the gas then in the last maybe 40 or 50. But like there'd be other races where you're all out all the way to the line. So I suppose when I kind of turned around and I saw I had it won, and it was obviously a big occasion, and like there was the main stand on the home straight was full, and like I had obviously a lot of family there and stuff. I kind of just wanted to take the opportunity then to enjoy it a bit more, so then like it was very enjoyable in that sense. I was able then to kind of coast in the last 50 or so, and so no, it was great.
We talked before on this podcast, Darragh, about, I suppose, the kind of when it comes to the last lap of a race like that and decision making and so on. And like you made the right decision on Sunday, you made the right move at the right time, and it paid off. But how comfortable are you right now with your progression and development when you're in a situation like that? When you're with Higo and Ephraim, the final lap of the men's 5,000 meter national championships, you just look so comfortable in that company. You just seem like you know what to do at the right time in a race.
Yeah, well, I think mostly like where my confidence would have came from coming into that race was that like I've got my 1500 time down quite a lot this year. It's like I ran a PB of 3:37 this year, which is quite a bit faster than the two lads. There'd probably be less kind of separating us over the longer distance, especially 10k. Like the two lads are 10k specialists really. Like they're both going to the European Championships in Munich in the 10k, whereas I'm going into 5k. So I think really because they're more strength-based athletes, the way it works out then is that the longer I'm in the pack with them, like their best chance, say, of beating an athlete who's kind of better at the shorter distances is to shake them off early. So I guess then, kind of knowing that I had that leg speed, getting into the last lap, feeling as comfortable as I did, that was nearly more important for me than the kick. You know what I mean? Because I kind of knew at the bell, I was thinking like this has gone basically as well as I could have hoped for. But yeah, like I and as well, I suppose like over 5,000, like I had the quickest time this year out of the three of us as well. So I probably did go in like the favourite or whatever. And I suppose I had like, thankfully I kind of had the tools to deal with whatever type of race happened. Like obviously it ended up being a bit of a sit and kick, but like even had it been hard from the gun, like I would have felt I'd be pretty confident I would have been able to go with whatever they kind of threw at me, and then it still would have came down to whoever had it most on the last lap. So. And I think that kind of takes pressure, like in some sense it puts pressure on me, but in another way it kind of takes pressure off because I kind of have the confidence that I don't need to make any mad decisions during this race. All I literally need to do is sit on them, do you know what I mean, and just stay exactly where I am. so then that took any kind of decision making out of it. And then obviously the only time I really had to then was with 270 or 280 to go, and even at that, then that's basically a case of just running as hard as you can for 40 seconds. It's not, there wasn't too much to it in that sense. But yeah, obviously the way it worked out was brilliant.
Talking about your celebration crossing the line, like you said, you knew that you had room to spare, but you seemed there was a celebration there. Did it mean something?
not that much. Like it's funny. Like it probably sounds like I'm making this up. I've literally never planned a celebration in my life. But sometimes it's just, I don't know. I guess it's just the emotion that kind of takes over a small bit. But I guess it was probably kind of more the fact that I was in control, like, and I don't know, like I kind of, as soon as I did it after, I was kind of thinking even to myself, like, why did I even do that? Like, what did it mean? But I guess, like, I'll put it this way, I wouldn't have done that celebration if it had been a race where I was raced all the way to the line and I had completely spent myself. I think I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't like a massive kind of battle in the end, you know what I mean? Like, I suppose, probably like flex that a little bit on everybody else, even though, as I say, as soon as I kind of crossed the line and the race was over, I was kind of like, geez, why did I do that? But I don't know, I guess the emotion kind of takes over a bit.
No wonder it did. Like, it's such an impressive performance, and it's the second time in 3 years so you've won the men's 5,000 meter title at the national championships. The first was 2 years ago. That was your first year up as a senior athlete. So to win this title again, how important is that to you? What does it mean to you?
Well, yeah, it means a lot, and I think on the I suppose, on the grand scheme of things then as well, like looking at it from winning it 2 years ago as much more of an underdog and a very, very hard race that day. Like I won it in basically the exact same time 2 years ago. It was like 13:53 or so. But like that day I was on edge the whole way, like just about kind of hanging on. And then I kicked with 200 meters to go and just about held off Travers. Whereas this time it obviously was a lot different. Like I was way more comfortable in the early stages of the race and had a lot more gears to kind of tap into in the last lap if I had to, whatever. So I guess it's kind of more a sense of like coming over, and obviously winning the title itself is the most important thing, but then it's also kind of more, I guess it kind of portrays like, I suppose, my development over the last couple of years, that I've obviously got that much stronger and that much fitter in the space of 2 years, which is obviously what you strive for. And I think as well, like it's great, obviously it's 2 and 3 years, and like I'd hope, like it's a real aim of mine now to just, come back basically every year and try and defend it. Like I did 1,500 last year, and I came fourth. But I think kind of looking back now, like it would have been nice to have done the 5K, and if I could maybe put a few of them in a row together or something like that. But like I mean, it's more, I suppose, to me that it's proof that things are working, and as I say, I've probably transitioned from going into that race as an underdog and probably a surprise package when I won it, whereas I think this year I probably was the favourite going into it. So I suppose I was happy as well to be able to kind of fulfill that role,
Must be happy with your times and your performances going into a pretty busy summer. And you mentioned earlier the European Championships, they're on in Munich in mid-August. And are they the main goal and main target right now? Is everything gearing up towards the Europeans?
Yeah, for sure. Like I think because they're on quite a bit later this year, and most of the time, like kind of my previous underage championships would be mid-July. So the way I would have attacked it really was just starting my season in May and kind of just taking in races the whole way forward, like kind of racing and then training for 2 weeks, race again, and so on. But I think because it was that bit extra, like my race in Munich is on the 15th of August, what we decided to do this year was have a big kind of racing block at the start of the year, which will come to a conclusion next Tuesday night in Cork, and then kind of take a step back and just go purely at training for 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm actually going to fly from the morning after the race. I have a wedding in Spain, and then I'm there for 2 days, and then going straight from there to an altitude camp, just to kind of take a step back and just put in 3 solid weeks of high volume, high intensity training to then get ready for the Europeans in August. But I think like it's actually been quite a nice build up, because I've been able to just take in races as they've came the last couple of weeks without having the pressure of just one championships. Whereas then I think once I have this couple of weeks training done, I'll probably drop down from altitude at the end of July, and then I'll have 2 or 2.5 weeks to get ready for the Europeans, and that's then obviously the main goal. But I think for me, like I'm at that kind of awkward age now where I'm still under 23, but there is no under 23 championships this summer. So a senior championships is the only one for me. And I think like obviously I got my first senior championships indoors back in March, like, and it was a fairly rude awakening, like, you know, and kind of portrayed fairly clearly to me like how much work I still have to do in order to be competitive with those lads. So I guess like as much as anything, I would hope going out there that I've bridged that gap some bit anyway. And I suppose more so it's a case of getting a senior championship under my belt again, and hopefully coming back when I'm, you know, next year and the year after and the year after that I'm going to be getting closer and closer to the top every year, and then hopefully then be able to win medals at it when I'm in my probably prime ages of, you know, 25, 26, whatever. But like the way it's shaping up, I still think I can be pretty competitive in that race. Like I think this year I have like I think it's the 8th or 9th quickest 5K of any European. So I'm not, you know, I'm not way down the list by any means, but at the same time, it's, you know, you're talking about basically all the best guys in Europe, your Mark Scotts, your Jakob Ingebrigtsens, etc. So yeah, I suppose it's just a case of getting as close to them as I can, hopefully putting out a good performance, and then, as I say, kind of using it as a stepping stone for future championships, and just kind of taking the learnings on board and stuff like that.
You mentioned the Cork City Sports there. That's next Tuesday, July 5th, and that's in Cork, so home crowd. I think you're entered in the men's 3,000 meters. What's the target going there like, and how much are you looking forward to actually racing in front of a home Cork crowd? And I presume a good few from West Cork are going to make the short trip up as well. Yeah, no,
100%. I'm buzzing for it now. Like it's kind of nice, and I've had this kind of little racing block in the calendar since the start of the year. So I obviously had nationals on Sunday, and then the Morton Games are on in Dublin on Saturday night. I'm racing the mile at that, and then the Cork City Sports on the Tuesday night. So I've kind of been looking forward to running those races in front of a home crowd now for a while, because it's a strange feeling when you try out like a really good performance on foreign soil, and it means the world to you, but like there's nobody really there to enjoy it. Like last week when I was in Copenhagen, and like I ran a big PB over 1,500, and it was massive for me, but like nobody cared, like, you know what I mean? Whereas I suppose obviously you'd hope then, like obviously yesterday was a pretty special day, and you'd hope then that at the City Sports in Morton I can do something similar. But like the plan for the City Sports anyway is, I suppose, primarily to win it. But like, you know, it's a top class international field, so it won't be easy by any means. And I guess like the kind of secondary goal then as well is like to get as close as I can to the stadium record, which was set by Craig Mottram. I'm not sure what year it was, some stage in the 2000s. But it's like it'd be a big ask, like, you know, there's no sugarcoating it. Like he ran 7:38 for 3,000 meters there, and like my current PB is 7:45 from the indoor season. So like it would take a massive run, but at the same time, I think like I'm in shape, and because it's like it's not, I don't really have anything to lose in the race. Like I'd rather just go out and give it a go and see what happens. Now obviously that's conditions permitting. Like if it's blowing a gale like it has been basically all summer, I don't know how conducive that's going to be to a quick time. But either way, anyway, like I'm really looking forward to it. Like, you know, go there and obviously hope to give like the home Cork fans like something to cheer about. And I think it'd be a great night of athletics as well, because like you've got even Louise Shanahan in the 800 meter. Like obviously she's from Cork as well, and she just won the women's 800 at the nationals, and I think Phil Healy's competing as well. So like I suppose like the kind of current, you know, not to toot my own horn, but the current kind of Cork stars of athletics or whatever are all going to be racing and stuff. So it'd be a great opportunity, and like I'd love to go out there and have a good performance. So yeah, that's on next Tuesday night, the 5th of July. So yeah, hopefully there'll be a big crowd there anyway.
Final question for you, Darren. You've been so kind with your time as always. You mentioned Phil Healy there. Obviously, she was in the Nationals just weekend, relinquished her 400 metre crown. Cracking race at Sophie Becker. We saw the women's 100 metre final, Rashida and Maddie Scott. What an incredible race, 100 of a second. But when you're there competing and focusing on your event, can you watch what's going on in the other races? Like, have you any favourite memory outside of your own from the weekend just gone, the Nationals? Or are you just so tuned in and honed in your own stuff that you can't watch what else is happening?
Yeah, most of the time it's hard now. I was lucky this year to a degree that kind of they tried to put a selection of the main kind of finals on Sunday night, and mine happened to be the first of them. So when I was finished, then I was able to take in those races that you mentioned. But at the same time, it's not easy either, because like my girlfriend Danielle was competing in the 5,000, but that was on Saturday. So like I didn't even go. I kind of couldn't even go up and watch it, because like, you know, most of the time the day before race I kind of just put the feet up and like stay in bed basically all day. So I kind of couldn't go up and watch that, which is annoying because obviously like, you know, sometimes you'd love to just be a spectator for a few days and actually take them in. But no, like I was able to watch those races. Like Phil's race was class. I was raging she didn't win it in the end. I was in the middle of a group of fans that were all shouting for Sophie. I think they must have been her family or something, and I was fairly making my feelings known. But she was so close. But I think it just shows as well, like Phil's been so dominant for the last couple of years, but it just shows that like you can never be, I guess, too comfortable either. You know, there's always somebody coming for your spot. But at the same time, I'm sure like Phil is probably similar to myself, has been focusing on Munich. And as I say, because it is such a late race, it's a hard way to attack it. And like, you know, at the end of the day, ultimately you want to run your best performance at these major championships. And like, I've no doubt that she'll bring her A game to Munich. So yeah, hopefully, like, I mean, the two of us should be over there, and there'll probably be a few other Cork athletes over there as well. Like, so it's good.
Is onwards and upwards. Like the season is getting busier and busier. But again, so kind of your time, Darragh. Thanks so much. Congrats again on your latest success, and best of luck in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Kieran, for having me on.
Delighted to be joined by Avril Condell of Access Credit Union, who's here to tell us a little bit about Cultivate Farm Finance. So Avril, maybe just give us a brief introduction to what Cultivate Farm Finance actually is.
So Cultivate is a collaboration of 40 credit unions throughout Ireland. West Cork has both Access Credit Union and Bantry Credit Union. The loan itself is up to 75,000 unsecured for 7 years is the max term, but obviously can be personalised and customised to each individual's needs. It's a great facility actually for farmers, because it covers cash flow, machinery purchases. Like there's a fertiliser crisis now, as we know. So literally anything that is required for the farm can be covered by this loan. The rate is very competitive. We can match the repayment term and the repayment frequency to each individual farmer depending on their enterprise. And you also have the benefit of the life cover that comes with the credit union loan, which I think is very important for people these days at no extra cost.
And if I'm a farmer and I'm listening to you on this podcast today, how can I get involved?
So if you're not sure of which credit union you're involved with, you can go to Cultivate Credit Union directly, which is www.cultivate-cu.ie, or you can phone 1800 839 999. And if Access is your credit union, you can contact me directly. So it's avril@accesscu.ie, or you can ring me on 085 268 2727.
Divisional football gets a bad rap at times, but when games like Thursday evenings are served up, there's nothing better. It's a big West Cork derby between the two big West Cork divisions. It's Carbery against Beara. And Kieran, you've been talking to Carbery manager Tim Buckley ahead of this cracking encounter.
Oh yeah, Jack, this is like whatever happens on Thursday night, the Southern Star is the big winner here because it's Carbery and Beara, two West Cork teams, so we're guaranteed a West Cork team through to the final of this divisional kind of unseeded section. So brilliant game. What a brilliant game. Bantry 7:30 Thursday night, Carbery against Beara. It's winner take all. It's proper championship. The winner advances, the loser goes home. So there's a lot on the line, and it's just almost a novelty now to see Carbery and Beara go head to head, and it's just a great game for I suppose for West Cork football, but especially for the two divisions because they've had it tough over the last couple of years. Beara didn't field the team the last two championships, but they're back in this year under their new manager Andrew Fitzgerald, and they beat Musgrave there in Dunmanway a couple of weeks back. Huge win for Beara. Before that, then it was Carbery beat Inverkilly, their first championship win in 5 years. So both teams have won games to get here, and I think that's important for both Carbery and Beara. Like that's progress. They've won championship games this year, so they're both looking forward to this game. They're really looking forward to this game. Caught up with Tim Buckley, who's a Carbery senior football manager. He's there 5 years now. In fairness to Tim, he's given great service to Carbery, and he keeps coming back year after year after year. And he's just trying to keep this Carbery football show on the road. And I remember talking to him after last year, and he was saying that Carbery football is at a crossroads because you have players committing, but then you have other players who won't commit, and it's just a tough slog at times. But that's why for both Carbery and for Beara to win games. Kind of players want to win games. So I think it'll just help them in future to attract players that whoever wins on Thursday night, they'll have won 2 championship games this year. So whatever happens after that, it's a great base again to start from for next year. So it just gets the show on the road and gets the train moving, to borrow one of Tim Buckley's analogies. So huge game. So like you hear from Tim now, he's looking forward to it. The Carbery have prepared quite well. So too have Beara. I've been talking to Andrew Fitzgerald. So big game, 7:30 p.m. Thursday night, and Tim Buckley is looking forward to it. It's the Battle of West Cork this Thursday night in Santry as Carbery and Beara meet in the Premier Senior Football Championship Division Colleges section. It's a winner-take-all encounter. And Tim, these are the games that players and managers look forward to. These are the games that you want to be part of. A big game like this, a big talking point in West Cork this week. It's Carbery against Beara. So how much are you looking forward to Thursday night?
Absolutely. We've been looking forward to this part of the season with certainly most of the spring, and the fact that it's Beara coming down the tracks here now makes it a little bit more, I suppose, something more to look forward to, because it's, as you say, it's the two local teams, Beara versus Carbery. This tradition goes back nearly 100 years at this stage, and the fact that we're very near neighbours, we know each other so well. We have great friends in Beara. Beara have great connections here in West Cork, and as much as you'd like to beat your enemies, you would hate to lose to your friends. That'll bring all that baggage with it, and we're really looking forward to the occasion and to the match itself on Thursday night. The fact now that we're at the winner take all stage of this section, that probably adds an extra bite to the game. Yeah, there are those, including myself, that believe that championship should be knockout, and the way heat of battle can't be replaced by any backdoor system or group stages. But look, everything serves to a means, and certainly now that we're here at the knockout stage, it is winner take all. Whoever loses goes home, whoever wins goes on, and that led to the attraction of the tie, number one, and number two, to the occasion itself and to the build up to the game for both teams and both divisions. Before we chat about the Beara game a little bit more, I have to go back to Carbery's first game. That was a win against Inmakilly a couple of weeks back, 218 to 110. A big result for Carbery. A first round win in 5 years, Tim. So was relief the overriding emotion at the end of that game? Well, it was. But I suppose it's important that I say at this stage like that. A lot of people made a big thing about the 5 years. But I suppose the first year we came in 4 weeks before the UCC game, and we just pretty much put out a team to represent the division. That's pretty much the ins and outs of it. And we were very lucky to be beaten by a point. And then you could cast a hard luck story then over the next 3 years as well. But that probably sums up divisions then, because you throw your hat in the ring and you hope that you land with 25 fit players. And there's no divisional manager in the county will deny that. You could lay down the best of preparations. You could spend months and months preparing, but it's what you end up with on the week of championship that ultimately decide your fate. But certainly, Inmakilly game, again, no matter what I say, no matter how much preparation you have, there's no divisional manager in the country, let me say, that can be sure of themselves, because you're always going into the game wondering, will you perform and will the team gel? There are all the questions that divisional teams and the Challengers division teams face more so than clubs, whereas a club is together for 4, 5 or 6 months. All of those questions have been answered through a league format, but the division doesn't have that comfort. But then that brings its own sense of challenges as well, and everybody has their challenges, and sure, that's why you're in the game, really. Just looking at that Inmakilly game, and I've always said in this podcast, I'm a big fan of divisional teams and the purpose that they serve. And I'm just looking through the match report again here, and the beauty of it is Sean Daly ran the low, got 7 points. Paddy O'Driscoll came off the bench. He kicked 1-1, and Paddy O'Driscoll is Gabriel Rangers. You're getting players from, let's say, the clubs down the tier playing at senior level, and that's so important too, to see the Sean Dalys and the Paddy O'Driscolls and the Darragh McElhinney's kind of flourish at the senior stage. Yeah, I suppose it's all about what you believe. And I have a great team around me. The 5 or 6 selectors there, in the management team. They believe in going to matches. They don't believe in making up your mind at the start of the season according to the grading that the fella plays with his club. And we look at fellas and we look at what they can do or possibly do for the Carbery senior football team. And the joy for us then is identifying these fellas when they're playing with their clubs. bring them into our setup and seeing them flourish. Like, and certainly the fellas there, Paddy and Sean, there, amongst others, like Shane Keevers down in Bantry, Seth Thornton, Kevin Coakley, lads that we saw something in them, and we're the first to admit that we're not always right, but we're very happy to take a chance on them and bring them in. And it worked out very well there for Shawnee there in the McKinney game. Like, he played very well, like, and he's a great old trier, like, brave. He's a very brave forward, and the plaudits he received that the McKinney game were well deserved. And not only Sean, like, there was Paddy there, was a great young for the Keith Driscoll, Sean Ryan there in the middle of the field. Like, Sean was a Cork minor in 2016, like, and in my opinion, he's one of the strongest midfielders in the county. Like, so that's exactly what the divisions are for these guys, where they don't have a shot, though.
And I was seeing some of I suppose we were chatting to Carbery captain Colin O'Driscoll after the Killy game, and he said the more exposure we can get at senior level, the better for us. And is that so important for divisional teams, Tim, to get those games? Because you're bringing players from all these different clubs together and you want them to get them playing as a team, but that's not going to just magically happen in the first game. Like, the more games that Carbery play together and these players play together, the better that they'll get.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't support those words of Colin's, like, more, like, one of the things that we see, if you're going to games week in, week out, day in, day out, like, we have a very strong underage coaching sector with Rebel Oak throughout the county of Cork, like, and it concentrates usually on the basic skill, like the inside hand tackle, the passing with both legs, passing with both hands. But I find that as those young fellas come out from 17, 18 years of age up, they're kind of, unless they make it at the county scene, they're kind of cast to one side, so to speak, and it's left to their club then to continue that coaching. And very often I would go to see a young fella at 24 or 25 years of age that would have been part of a county development squad, and he's gone back to his old habits again because the standard he's playing allows him to do that. And very often a fella that was able to pass with both feet at the age of 17, by the time he hits 23, 24, he's lost all those basic skills again because he's gone into his own comfort zone. So bringing fellas into a senior football setup where you're playing senior clubs, you're not allowed those comforts, and it won't happen overnight. The first game, you won't be playing at the top of your level, we'll say. So by playing 2 and 3 and 4 games, the penny drops for these guys that, I'm not going to get away with stuff here that I would maybe at junior level, and I'll have to start improving on my basic skills just to survive. And the point that Colin was making is that every time you put on your football boots with the Carbery senior football team, you'll go out to improve yourself. And, like, aside from winning championship matches, the development of the player is really what I see in a player coming in from, we'll say, a junior club or even an intermediate club up to the senior level.
Taking that on into the Beara game on Thursday night, what are the areas of improvement that you'd like to see from Carbery when you think back to the first game against McKinney?
Well, certainly, look, again, as I said a while ago, like, no senior manager at divisional level is sure of their hand until you actually see it unfold in front of you. So, like, all we'll do is we'll concentrate on ourselves. We'll look back at the Killy game and the games that we played previously. We'll work on the basic stuff. It's not something that you can get too technical about with the amount of time that we've got with the lads. But if we can get the basics right, everybody says to me, look, we've got the talent in West Cork. Of course we do. Like, every divisional team will have talented footballers. That's a given. But we'll just work on the basics. And if we can eradicate the basic mistakes, then you'll go an awful long ways to competing at this section of the championship.
We're a few weeks into this new format, Tim, this new division colleges format where we have an unseeded section where a lot of the divisions are taking place, and then the winner will go forward to take on the Duhallows, CIT and UCC in the next stage. So considering this is the first year of this, we're probably learning on the go. So how are you finding it so far, having these Thursday nights put aside for the divisional games? And is there any tweaks that you can see that need to be made going forward? Are you pretty happy with your lot so far?
We are. We're all learning, and, like, credit must be given to the CCC, the county board, who've sat down and worked this out. Like, and I think they've landed. My opinion is that they've landed at the right time of the year, which is one. I don't really think that playing it before the junior leagues or the county league start is right, because certainly you don't have the players conditioned enough to play the senior football games, and you need to have them fit, which is the first thing. So they will be at a certain level by June. So I think June is the right time of the year. So they've identified the correct time. The format probably doesn't suit everybody because you have club league games, and that's where the clash comes. Like, and it's no one's fault really, because obviously look, the club want to complete their league program and prepare for championship, and the Carbery or the divisional team then wants their elite players to come in and to give their time to Carbery. But I suppose it's probably it's build it as you fly sort of thing, and I think we're on the right road. We're certainly not perfect, because talking to the other divisional managers, they certainly struggle to get the group together. But certainly, I think the key point here this year was grouping the 5 divisions together, because we're all facing the same challenges. We said like the UCC and CIT have different challenges, and they'll come later on to whoever comes out of this group. But the key this year is that we have 5, right? And there's 8 in total. So like, if the other 3 divisions could see that, look, Jesus, those lads didn't do too bad last year. And if you had more, I think that's the key, is to have more. And then you'll have a kind of you could maybe have 2 groups, and certainly you're on the right road then. Like, but look, it's never ever going to be perfect. And even if you go into a senior club, it's never going to be perfect with them either. But it's as good as it's going to get at the moment, and we're thoroughly enjoying it. Certainly is a challenge day to day, working with fellas, making sure that their workload, certainly this time of the year, isn't too much, because injuries is a huge thing now for everybody at the moment, regardless of divisions, and certainly in the divisions cases.
It was a continuing challenge for divisional teams, and it's every divisional team in the county is access to players from clubs. How have you found it this year, the clubs in Carbery, and getting access to the players that you want to bring on board?
It's a mixed bag. Like, every time you deal with a group of 30 or 35 players, you're going to have different individual personalities. Some guys are brilliant at organising their schedule, prioritising certain games, and then some guys need a little bit of help. So, like, we found it a good experience this year, dealing with the clubs, corresponding with the managers, working out schedules for the lads. Like, but in the main, like, when you have a guy that's played probably at underage level with Cork, has represented Cork at senior or under 20 level, he's already bought into the whole managing the diary thing, and it comes fairly naturally to him. But as I say, not everybody has that ability in their toolbox, but we'd like to think then that we'd be able to help them along, like, and pull back from the Carbery point of view when it's needed, and maybe encourage the club, like, to kind of pick the battles that the player plays, because fellas can't be out every night. And absolutely, like, this time of year, injury prevention, like, is top of everybody's list, because fellas' workload, especially lads that would be dual players and playing with divisions or representative sides, they find that the diary is very full. Like, so in the whole, I find it a very pleasant experience. All of the clubs in West Cork, to be fair to them, are buying in behind the Project Carbery, as we call it. And, I suppose from that point of view, we can't complain.
This is your 5th year as Carbery's senior football manager, Tim, and you're obviously a real passion for the Carbery division and this team, because, and I know we touched on it earlier, it's so important for players of junior clubs and so on, just to get that chance and that shop window to play at senior level and test themselves against the best players in the county. So I know we've spoken about this before for the Star paper itself, but like, it's so important that there is a future for divisional teams, and that opportunity for players is there.
Yeah, like, I think that it's like the way the format it is, like, there'll be one divisional team come out into the quarter-final of the senior football championship. And that's one more good quality senior football team in the last 8 of the senior football. So, like, that's the ends to the means. So the project is well worth doing. If you can improve the standard of Cork football by bringing one more good senior football team, and by that I mean that this process will bring somebody out that's played 5 quality senior games, and there'll be a good team there and a good challenge for any club team in the county. So apart from the project being critical to allowing a junior or intermediate player to play senior football, it's also critical to the quality, I suppose, really, I would say, of the senior football chapter in Cork, that we're providing another player. And for me, the traction there, often nights there, I put the gear in the car and go, geez, what are we doing here? Like, where are we going? But then, it clicks the match, stuff happens in match, and you go, this is why I do it. Like, and you look around your management teams as well, like, and they're willing to travel to the 4 corners of the division, sometimes further, without any complaint. And that would keep it very, very, I feel very humble in terms of a commitment to the division. And I am very passionate about Carbery. I think Carbery has a great tradition, as do all the divisions around the county, and they have a huge part to play in senior football here in Cork.
We've used the analogy that Carbery as a train, Tim, and left the station with a win against Imekilly the first day, so starting to pick up a bit of speed. Is the hope to keep that speed and momentum going against Beara on Thursday night?
Well, yeah, of course, but again, go back to what I said earlier, no manager knows his hand until it's played, and likewise, we don't know, what the opposition will bring to the table. We can only deal with what is put in front of us on the night. We'll get our own house in order, and we'll be ready for Thursday night. But certainly the Imekilly game was very important. We remarked on that earlier on in the conversation. That was very important from our point of view. And the body language now, both throughout the division, the groundswell of support, people talking about Carbery, that hasn't happened for a long time. And I'm sure the same as in Beara. They beat Musgrave down in the men were there a couple of weeks ago. And the two divisions now have the public interested in their project. And that's going to create great interest in the tie. And that's the way it should be. So, we're absolutely looking forward to Thursday night, and we hope that we perform to the best of our ability.
I think everyone's looking forward to Thursday night in Bantry, 7:30 throw-in, Carbery against Beara, and West Cork will be the winner no matter what the result is. So thanks, Tim, for joining us, and best of luck on Thursday night.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Okay, Kieran, before we wrap up, we're going to quickly preview this Thursday's Southern Star sports section. So what can readers expect? I presume there is fallout from the Cork footballers' loss to Dublin at Croke Park.
Yeah, you can check out Hardy O'Sullivan's column on that, the Inside Track, page 2, as usual. So he's giving his thoughts on Cork's performance against Dublin. So that's well worth the read. There's a lot of GA going on as well. I'm going to actually skip some of the inter-county stuff and go straight to the local stuff, because I know our podcast listeners like that as well. The Cork Junior B football quarterfinals were on the weekend just gone, and so now we're Plunkett's beat Clownagale. We have a full report from that match with pictures. We have a report too why Kilmeen lost to Father O'Neill's, but Garnish and Diarmuid Mahoon's both won their quarterfinals, and they'll both meet in the County Junior B semi-final the weekend after next. So check out Thursday Star for all the fallout from the County Junior B Football Championship semi-finals. Also, was the final round of the County Football Leagues last weekend. Castlehaven just missed out on the place in the Division 1 semi-finals, as did Carbery Rangers, but Dawnies are through to the Division 2 semi-finals, so we've a roundup on that. Looking further down, we've a lovely piece in the faces done with Ardfield Rathbarry Tennis Club. I know Wimbledon has started this week, but forget about Wimbledon for a second. Ardfield Rathbarry is where it's at when it comes to tennis in West Cork. So she's caught up with the members there to tell us more about that club. We also have a full page on Bunratty United. They beat Drina Rangers in the Parkway Hotel Maybury Coaches Cup final the weekend just gone. And that, Jack, is the treble for Bunratty United. I know we've talked about the likes of Dunmanway and Drina and Clonakilty on the podcast over the last couple of weeks and months. But Bunratty United have won a treble. They won the Championship League, they won the Championship Cup, and now they've added another cup to their cabinet. So they'll be up in the Premier Division next year. And we've had a full page on them. Joe McCarthy has cut up to have a chat to see how this club is regrouped and how this season unfolded the way it did. So that's well worth checking out. Also, Keith Cronin is in local action this weekend. He's using the Moonraker Rally in Ballyvourney as a warm up for his next British Rally Championship event, which is the week after this. So we've caught up with Keith to talk about that. We also have a report on the Fasta Triathlon from a couple of weeks ago. It's just a full page of pictures. So if you took part in the Fasta Triathlon, there's a good chance, and if you're local from West Cork, I might add, there's a chance that you might be on Thursday Southern Star. So you'll have to pick up a copy just to find out. We obviously have the Carbery Beara build-up. The Cork ladies are through to the All-Ireland quarterfinals. Did a good win last weekend against Waterford. Cork Camogie are back out this weekend against Tip. So there's a lot going on as usual. So it's well worth picking up Thursday Southern Star. You just won't be disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always, if you can't make it to the shop on Thursday, or if you're living abroad or you're on your holidays, you can always subscribe online. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/e-paper and read West Cork's favourite newspaper on your computer, tablet or smartphone for less than €2 per week. Thanks for listening to this week's Star Sport podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Slán Tamil.